you so much, everyone. Our attention is on Edo governorship election. What does this mean? The peace accord, and if one political party says we're not signing, and they listed some of their grievances, but beyond all of the narratives and the breakback, the back and forth, the implication of some of this body language and the messaging that we get, and it means a lot, isn't it? Let's get talking about this. Let's look at what the law says, what the politicians are doing, what has been a tradition over the past years that's been conducted by the National Peace Committee led by General Abdulsalami Abubakar and the convener Bishop Matthew Kuka. I'm being joined on the program by the Executive Director of YAGA Africa, a lawyer and electoral and democratic governance expert, Mr. Samson Itodo, who joins us from Kampala in Uganda. Thank you so much indeed for your time tonight.
Very much, Cheryl, and good evening, everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much indeed. Give us an understanding. Perhaps a lot of people who do not know what this peace accord means in our electoral process. We've made it to be, and it has helped, isn't it, that we've seen over the years, the National Peace Committee, they've been able to midwife a process of security and engagement that had led to peaceful conduct of election in Nigeria. We saw what happened sometimes in 2011 after the election in Bauchi and in some part of the country where people were killed in the post-election era. But give us an understanding. This peace accord, what does this mean in our elections?
Oh, thank you very much, Cheryl. The peace accord is a document, a commitment that political actors, political stakeholders make to express and make commitments to uphold the certain tenets and principles of democratic elections. It is an accord, an agreement that politicians and candidates go into to demonstrate that they are committed to credible elections, that they will not make incendiary statements that heat up the polity, such as hate speech, and that when they have grievances with the outcome of an election, they will defer to legal and civil means of election dispute resolution. So it's a commitment that political parties and candidates make. Whilst there is no legal implication or no legal backing, for the peace accord, but it has a moral and a persuasive power and force that compels political parties and candidates, to subscribe to non-violent means of election engagement or electoral politics. And that's what the peace accord is. It's that agreement that came on the background of the highly, violent nature of our.
Now, something. Let me ask you. Let's get it straight. This peace accord is a moral obligation, not a legal obligation, and as such, it is not binding, is it? All right. I'm very sure that Samson will reconnect with us as soon as he's unfrozen by the network glitch that we're seeing there. Of course, today we saw what happened. Samson, if you're back with us, please do a nod. Oh, great. I see that you're back with us now. So my question is, the peace accord is a moral obligation and not a legal one. So no one is legally bound by whatever is signed. Is that right?
You're right. It's not a legal document, but it has some moral persuasive force, because when politicians make commitments that they will uphold the principles of transparency, accountability, and peaceful elections, they make a commitment. And when they fail in that commitment, what it tells us is they are individuals and parties that should not be trusted with votes. They should not be trusted with power. Because when they sign those peace accords, they are making a pledge. They are making a commitment. Unfortunately, we have situations where politicians sign the peace accord and they still express all forms of deviant behavior on the day of elections, which is totally unacceptable. And this is why we continually urge stakeholders, especially voters, to punish political parties who instrumentalize violence to undermine the outcome of elections, or political parties who field candidates that make all sorts of incendiary statements that hits up the polity, that delegitimizes the process. These are some of the issues. You see what happened today? This is the first time in the history of the peace accord where a political party will openly reject, decline signing the peace accord. And I thought that it was a missed opportunity, even though, yes, the PDP has made a strong symbolic statement, but I wish that they had signed it, because the peace accord isn't just about non-violence or security agencies. It's also about other commitment and the symbolism. We missed the opportunity today to see candidates of the main political parties at that event shaking hands with each other and hugging each other like we saw 4 years ago. Because those images, though you might think that they don't mean anything, but the supporters out there who see these candidates, embrace each other, smile at each other, and shake hands, actually sends a strong message to the supporters. But what's happened today, has further and will further, escalate the tension in the build-up to this election. And I just want to urge that, yes, these petitions that have been released by the parties, and they made several demands, we cannot wish them away. But I will urge that all those who were not in the peace accord signing ceremony today should, post this event, sign this peace accord. They have made their statement, and those issues and demands that they made are things that I think the peace accord will need to engage with both the Inspector General of Police, INEC, and other stakeholders to see how they resolve these issues, so that this crisis of confidence that seems to have become, the order of the day in the build-up to this election, will be addressed. And we need to de-escalate the tension in the build-up to the September 21 election. But as it stands, all the pre-election assessment that YIGA Africa and other civil society organizations have released in the build-up to this election, has been further reinforced by, this action and what transpired today in the course of this peace accord signing ceremony.
So let's look at it. Do you fear for this election in respect of security? You have a fear about a possible things going south?
So we have our fears about this election. Voters have expressed their fears about this election. In our first report, we had predicted low turnout as a result of the volatile nature of this election. We've seen an exponential increase, in the activities of cult groups in the build-up to this election. We've seen attacks on political candidates. We've seen attacks on supporters. We've seen disruptions at party rallies by thugs, and by cult groups. These pre-election signs clearly demonstrate that the political actors are not preparing for elections on September 21, that they are preparing for a showdown and they are preparing for war. And this is where our security agencies, including INEC and our stakeholders, need to put the interest of the people first. If the people don't feel, the voters in Edo, if they don't feel that a safe and a secure environment will be provided on September 21, they are not going to come out to cast their vote. And when they don't show up, it means that the state, and in this state, by the state, I mean all the stakeholders, we've denied the people of Edo the opportunity to exercise their franchise. And we want to urge and call on the political actors on both sides, of the divide, to sheath their swords and put the interest of the state first by complying with the rules of the game, by also urging on the security agencies, to handle the election security for this election in an impartial, transparent, democratic, and professional manner. Because that way you will inspire confidence on the part of all the stakeholders. But as it stands, it appears there is a crisis of confidence. And also call on INEC. INEC has a critical role to also play in the way it manages the September elections. That if security is not provided for the Electoral Commission, it cannot deploy. And so if there are thoughts that are deployed by political actors to disrupt INEC operations, it would impact on the elections. Those who are managing the elections on the September 21st, and these are INEC officials, they must be individuals of impeccable character and high integrity, because previous elections, we've seen how election officials have been compromised, and there hasn't been any consequence meted on those INEC officials. And so how INEC manages this election will be critical and central. But as far as we are concerned, the stage has been set, for all forms of either post-election disputes, from the September 21 elections, or even situations where the election is going to be highly tensed and any provocation can lead to violence. And we urge that the peace accord, the peace committee, should post this event, engage in further meetings with the political actors on the need for them to lower the temperature, because the voters in Edo want to cast their votes for a party and candidate of their choice, and the Nigerian state owes them that responsibility to provide a conducive environment for them to exercise a constitutionally guaranteed right.
Yeah, let's look at these issues. When one political party, the ruling party and the governor, are crying foul about a few issues. They raised some allegations, they raised issues about the perceived partisanship of authorities or institutions responsible to conduct and provide to conduct election and provide security. Is it possible, for the sake of peace and moving forward, that some of these institutions actually, listen or do such that at the end of the day it's not looking like these institutions help to rig election in favor of a certain political party? Is it possible? Have we seen that kind of scenario play out before?
Yeah, of course. We've seen a scenario play out before where the Nigerian police and security agencies, have managed election security in a very professional and non-partisan manner. We've seen that in governorship elections. And that's what Nigerian stakeholders and the voters in Edo want. They want a situation where security operations will be managed in a non-partisan manner, because our security agencies need to be reminded that their loyalty is to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And they do have a duty to protect our Constitution, and it's a Constitution that guarantees the rights. And their loyalty shouldn't be to either the ruling party in the state or the ruling party at the federal level. But the police and our security agencies, I believe, have what it takes, because it has happened before, where the police have been professional and they've been impartial. It has happened before and they can do that again. What I expect, against the background of these allegations that have been made, it is important to underscore 3 points, Sheon. That first, that the state should not use its apparatus and its powers to go after political actors irrespective of the divides that they find themselves. Because when you do that, you impugn on the confidence of the process. And if you don't create a level playing field, it begins to question the commitment of political actors, from conducting a credible elections. The second is that, if a crime has been committed, if there's an alleged crime, the police has the power and the right to arrest, it has the power to investigate, it also has the power to prosecute. In exercising that right, there are laid down procedures and laws in our law books, that there are courts that have jurisdiction for handling certain matters. And when you don't, institute a prosecution in a court that has jurisdiction, it raises a lot of questions. So I want to call, on the IG and the police, to invite these stakeholders to a meeting, given the sensitivity of this particular issue, and address some of the concerns that they have raised, but to also call on, even all the other actors on the other side, that they need to sheath their swords and come to the dialogue table. And if there are concerns, let those concerns be addressed. And when they are addressed, is to go back and urge your supporters not to take to any form of violence. And the Peace Committee has a critical role to play. I think that a lot can be done between now and next week, Saturday, to boost the trust and confidence of the stakeholders. When you have this crisis of confidence, you just give voters, so much fears that their vote will not count next week.
Samson Itodo, thank you so much indeed for your time tonight. Samson is a executive director of YAGA Africa, one of those groups of observer and civil society organization that will be monitoring that election. And of course, Samson is an electoral and democratic governance advocate. Thank you so much indeed for your time tonight and joining us in the program.
Thank you very much.